Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome one and all, and boy, oh boy, has a lot happened today. Now, I'm standing by. The president is expected to be at a ceremony where he's going to give out a medal. If he does that live, I'll cut right to it right here on the program, and you won't miss any of it, and I want to see it too. It's a medal ceremony. We'll get into it when it happens, so I'm monitoring over here. But I want to talk about this outrage, this very selective outrage that the left have towards President Trump over this post he made to Truth Social about Rob Reiner. I'm going to read through this, and then we'll talk a little bit about what the president is talking about. And I'm welcome to your calls to hear your thoughts on it. President Trump posted this morning at 9:51 a.m. today on Truth Social. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle. Now, by the way, I saw on X, I'd never heard this before, that Rob Reiner's wife took the photograph of President Trump that's on the cover of The Art of the Deal. Did you ever hear that before? Yeah. Anyway, a very sad, let me start over. This is President Trump's post on Truth. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump Derangement Syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Okay, so if you're on hold, stand by, and if you'd like to call in, the number's pinned in the live chat. We'll get to the calls in a bit. So, I just got the notice to stand by from the White House, so I'll pull that up, and when it begins, we'll cut right to it. But, this outrage that we're hearing from the left, first of all, he did say in the end, rest in peace, which is what you say when someone passes away, all right? President Trump not only said rest in peace, he said some things too that, maybe some don't want to hear. However, Rob Reiner was one of the nastiest Trump haters out there. And I knew he was a Trump hater. I knew he had Trump Derangement Syndrome. However, whenever there was a news story about Rob Reiner or a clip from Rob Reiner, because he spent a lot of time, I guess, on MSNBC, some CNN, I tuned it out. In fact, if you go back to the program, I don't think I played audio clips of him over the years. Rob Reiner, maybe once or twice, but not very often. I never paid much attention to Rob Reiner because I don't care what actors and Hollywood people have to say about much of anything. So you don't hear me playing clips from The View anymore. And there's all kinds of things that are always coming out with actors. I pay very little attention to them. But he was one of the biggest Trump Derangement Syndrome sufferers out there. Now, I am monitoring. If the president comes on, I will stop in my tracks what I'm doing and go right to it. Don't you worry, because I want to see this too. But he was a really nasty Trump Derangement Syndrome sufferer who was involved with some of the Hollywood elite. In fact, he started this committee called the Committee to Investigate Russia, and claimed that President Trump was in office because Russia put him there. This is him on CNN, the late Rob Reiner.
It occurred to me that, we've heard this cliche our whole lives. When our country is attacked, politics stops at the water's edge. This is the first time that that didn't happen. And I started to think, I don't know that the public understands the gravity of what the Russians were able to do and continue to do here in the United States. They've attacked us. They are trying to undermine our democracy. And for some reason, we are not understanding the gravity of this. And I think a big part of that is because the President of the United States is not saying, you know, in the Oval Office, you know, my fellow Americans, we've been attacked. And so I started reaching out to, you know, people who are patriots and not necessarily of my political stripe to say, we're all together in this. Our country is attacked. Democracy is on the brink to you know, if we're going to survive, we need to come together as Americans and understand what happened.
Okay. So, and then he set up this committee to investigate Russia, right? And I mean, look at this. Here's the advisory board. Clapper, give me a break. Michael Hayden, who's a former CIA guy. Panetta, Rob Reiner's on it, right? Charlie Sykes, what's he doing on there? You know, I mean, so, you know, he was in with these I mean, if you look at the names on this, and this is just one thing, he is in with these deep state people that were part of the lawfare and everything else with President Trump. And then someone put together a montage. This is nuts. This is a montage. This is Rob Reiner, of course, talking about our President Trump.
We are being tested right now as to whether or not 241 years of self-rule will emerge. We are on the track to destroying what we've had for 243 years. Democracy depends on it, and whether or not we sustain the 244 years of self-rule. 246 years we're coming up on, the longest democracy in the world, and it's hanging by a thread. Do we want fascism, or do we want to continue the 248 years of self-rule? We've been around for 249 years. We've had that many years of self-rule, and the election that you're seeing coming up in 2024 is going to be a referendum on whether or not we want to maintain and hold on to our democracy, or do we want to give it over to autocracy, fascism? We have, I would say, a year to be able to correct this and see whether or not our 250-year experiment continues to survive, and we'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, this is a hardcore Trump hater, no doubt about it. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air once, twice. All right, you missed your chance. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from LA.
Okay.
My name's Jose Garcia.
All right. What's on your mind? Hold on, let me answer these other lines while you're waiting. All right, go ahead, LA.
So you don't have a problem with the president of USA talking about somebody that passed away?
Well, if he's the president of the United States, of course he's going to comment and talk about somebody famous who passed away.
No, that's fine. Commenting is something fine. I'm asking if you don't have a problem with him saying something bad about them.
I have no problem with what he said. I mean, you know, but here's my question to you, since I answered yours. What's your Jose from LA? You know, tell me something you like about President Trump.
You know what? The one thing that I do like about President Trump is the fact that he is changing things. He is making politicians use their brain from now on, I guess. But the one thing that I dislike about President Trump and his supporters, and I happen to be a Republican, born and raised Republican, the one thing that I disagree with him is that if he gets criticized, everybody gets offended. And he says some pretty mean things about people. Like if I say right now, I don't give a monkey rat's ass about Charlie Kirk getting killed, and I talk bad about him. Do you have a problem with that?
See, President Trump didn't say that about Rob Reiner.
No, I'm not saying
he didn't celebrate the death, the murder of Rob Reiner. He in fact said, "Rest in peace."
I'm not celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk, but if I say something bad about Charlie Kirk, am I allowed to say that without people getting upset on me?
Without people getting upset on you? I mean, there's a difference when what a lot of Democrats did. Hold on. What a lot of Democrats...
No, I'm not a Democrat.
I know. Jose from Los Angeles with an accent that's not American is a lifelong Republican. I know. I buy that. Okay. I'm just...
What does my accent have to do with anything? I was born and raised in California.
You have a Mexican accent. You're Hispanic.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a white person.
And you live in Los Angeles. So the idea that you're a lifelong Republican is I don't buy it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's so. Are you legal?
So you do know that Mexicans, we've been here before white people. You know there used to be Mexico, right?
Not anymore.
So I'm not going to change for anybody.
Oh, so you're Mexican. So what happened to this lifelong Republican?
I'm U.S. born, Mexican American, just like a white person from.
But you know what? The Mexican people stole it from the native tribes.
I don't have a problem.
Mexicans. Hispanics. Excuse me. You said the white Hispanics are descendants of Europeans too, right? Spaniards and Portuguese.
I don't have a problem with that.
So why is your claim on California superior than the United States claim? You lost the war.
I'm not claiming the California. I'm not claiming
see
that.
What I mean? I am not. I'm answering your questions, but the idea. This idea that a guy named Jose from Los Angeles with a Mexican accent who says that you were here before the white people, that for you to tell me that you're a lifelong Republican, I'm calling BS on that. I don't buy it.
Okay, you can call BS on that, but I am a lifelong Republican, and I always been a Republican.
I know.
And I have no problem with you trying to put me down because I'm Mexican.
I'm not trying to put you down because you're Mexican. I thought you were an American. Now you're telling me you're Mexican. Which is it? Are you an American or Mexican?
You think you don't have an accent?
I have an American.
You don't think you have an accent?
I have an American accent.
You don't think you have an accent?
Not to an American.
No, you have a hillbilly accent.
No, not to an American. A hillbilly.
No, you have a hillbilly accent.
I have an American accent. This is an American accent.
Hillbilly accent. You don't sound like the typical white person from California.
How's a typical white person sound? How's a typical white person sound?
A redneck accent.
A redneck accent.
You have a redneck accent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you said you're Mexican.
So what's wrong with that?
You told me you were born and raised here, but you're a Mexican? If you were born and raised here, you'd be an American. Which is it?
Well, that's what you tell me. That's what you're telling me.
No, you said you're Mexican. You said you're Mexican.
No, I called to ask you a question.
Did Jose here say that he's Mexican?
You brought up my accent.
Because you're taking this position of moral superiority.
So what's wrong with having an accent, though?
Listen, you're taking a position of moral superiority over President Trump, and you're a liar, and you're lying about everything.
Why would I be lying to you about it?
You told me you just told me because you slipped.
Why would I want to lie to you about it?
You slipped. You said you're Mexican, not American. Okay, you don't view yourself as an American?
You told me. No, go back and listen to the conversation. You said
I don't have to go back and listen. I heard it the first time. I was a part of it.
Hispanic accent. I'm not putting titles.
You said you're giving me a hard time because you said you're giving me a hard time because I'm Mexican.
Go back and listen to the conversation.
And then you're throwing out racial slurs. Excuse me. Then you're throwing out racial slurs. You're throwing out racial slurs. No. You're throwing out racial. You said that I'm a hillbilly. That's a racial slur.
I'm asking you if you know you have a redneck accent.
You're calling me a hillbilly and redneck. That's like the N-word.
There's
a racial slur. You said you're Mexican. You said you're Mexican. No, you said you're Mexican. You said you're Mexican.
That's why it's
being a Mexican is a nationality.
You keep switching sides.
Calling a white guy, excuse me, you're on hold. Calling a white guy a redneck or hillbilly in the context of when you're doing in which you're using it is a racial slur. He hung up. He said he was Mexican. That's not a racial slur. First of all, that's a nationality. Calling me a redneck or hillbilly in that context is like the N-word. Did he not use a racial slur in your mind, calling me a redneck hillbilly? I think he did. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Once, twice. All right, you missed your chance. I'm sorry. I got to call it out like it is. Now, if you would like to call in, the number's toll free. I'm monitoring the president, by the way. So if he does come out while I'm on, I will cut right to it. But they are giving us the warning that he'll be out shortly. So we'll stand by for that. So also, I've got something else here on Rob Reiner. Look at this. These are things that Rob Reiner posted about President Trump. And you can see this. These are dated, right? July 1st, 2020. These are posed to what was then known as Twitter. I'm just monitoring, guys. Hold on. Let me make sure. I don't want to miss the president when he comes out. Okay, here we go. We're going to cut to the president, and then we will be back.
Are nice people. They're not violent like our people. Well, they make our people look like babies. These are some of the most violent criminals anywhere on earth from many countries, not just Venezuela. Venezuela emptied their jails into our country, but others have also. The Congo has. So many other countries have. And we don't put up with it. I have to say the drugs coming in by sea are down 94%. And we're trying to figure out who the other 6% are. But they're down 94%, and we're going to start hitting them on land, which is a lot easier to do, frankly. But these are a direct military threat to the United States of America. They're trying to drug out our country. And you can look throughout history. Look at China when they were loaded up with drugs. They were suffering greatly, and others were able to take them over. And other countries also. They're trying to drug out our country, and we're reversing it rapidly, actually. But with the help of our great service members, we've stopped the invasion in its tracks, and we're dismantling the cartels very rapidly. And they are being declared enemies of the United States of America.
Awesome.
They've been so declared, legally declared. More than 25,000 warriors have served in this historic operation. It is indeed an incredible and historic operation. And we've never done anything so effectively, and we've had a lot of victories. They've spent night and day enduring scorching hot and bitter cold, and they've given up their holidays and their weekends working with the officers of Customs and Border Protection. Our armed forces have already conducted nearly 13,000 patrols along the border. And today we give these great warriors the recognition that they have earned, and they have really earned it. The military component of our border security efforts is just the beginning. We're also designating the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, a big deal from a legal standpoint and military standpoint. We've ended catch and release, and we endured and ensured that anyone who sets foot across our border illegally is intercepted, arrested, and immediately deported, or if they're really bad, they're put into prison because we don't want to ever take a chance to come back. As a result, illegal border crossings have plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded in the history of our country. Think of that. The history of our country. You can all be very proud. For the past 7 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States of America. We inherited the worst border in the history of our country, one of the worst borders, I would say, in the world. I can't imagine any border in the world being worse when they allowed 25 million people to come in. And again, many of these people are gang members and from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums. And some of the worst people on earth they allowed to come into our country. We're getting a lot of them out. We've made a big dent. And the self-deportation is something nobody talks about, but literally millions of people are self-deporting because they don't want to be captured. Once they're captured, they don't have the chance to self-deport. And they never have the chance to come back into our country. We inherited that border from an incompetent administration and turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. So we took the worst border in the history of our country, and in a period of 2 months, we turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country.
It's amazing.
During this time, we've also achieved a 50% drop in the amount of fentanyl coming across the border, and China's working with us very closely on bringing down the number and the amount of fentanyl that's being shipped. You know, fentanyl is very bad when you mix it with certain ingredients, but it also is very important for medicine, for anesthesias, various other things. I want people to understand that. It's not made necessarily for bad. When it's mixed with certain things, it becomes bad. And that's what's taking place in Mexico. And we've got it down to a much lower number, not satisfactory, but it will be satisfactory soon. In May, we executed the largest fentanyl bust in the history of the U.S., seizing 3 million fentanyl pills all at one time. Think of that, 3 million pills. It's amounted to billions of dollars worth of drugs. And last month, we seized another 1.7 million fentanyl pills in the state of Colorado, the poorly run state of Colorado, with a governor who's incompetent. And frankly, with a governor that won't allow our wonderful Tina to come out of a jail, in a high-intensity jail, because she caught people cheating on an election, and they said she was cheating. She wasn't cheating. She went over, she looked at one of the election scams going on, and because she did that, they put her in jail for 9 years. The governor of Colorado is a weak and pathetic man who was run by Tren de Aragua, criminals from Venezuela, and took over sections of Colorado. And he was afraid to do anything. But he puts Tina in jail for 9 years because she caught people cheating. And when she walked over and got involved in it, they said she was cheating. She wasn't cheating. She caught people cheating on the election, 2020, along with a lot of other people that cheated on that election. You'll see that coming out more and more. But there's no doubt that America's adversaries are trafficking fentanyl into the United States.
The questions from the press are going to be wild today.
If this were a war, that would be one of the worst wars. I believe they killed, over the last 5 or 6 years, per year, 200 to 300,000 people. You hear about 100,000, which is a lot of people, but the number's much higher than that. That's been proven. And they've destroyed a lot of families. Because when they lose a child, or even if their child is heavily addicted, you lose that family. The family will never be the same. That's why today I'm taking one more step to protect Americans from the scourge of deadly fentanyl flooding into our country. With this historic executive order I will sign today, we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
Wow.
Which is what it is.
That's huge.
No bomb does what this is doing.
Holy smokes.
200
About
to
time.
300,000 people die every year that we know of. So we're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. But before I sign the fentanyl order, we will pin these great service members with their medals. And here today are the first 13 warriors who will receive the Mexican Border Defense Medal. Which
is that a new medal?
First, I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth and Chairman Kane to say a few words. I'd like to have Tom Homan come up, please, if you would, say a few words. And I want to thank all of the people, Pam and everybody, Stephen Miller, great Stephen Miller, what a job he's doing, for being here. Thank you both. Appreciate it very much. We have so many great people here. But I do want to ask Tom to say a few words also. So, Pete, why don't you start it off, please?
Now, those of you watching with the green wall behind me, if you go to my main stream, you can see and hear the video.
Thank you.
Link below.
I would echo what you said. This has been a team effort from the beginning. Tom Homan, Terry Cole, Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi, Christy Nome, Customs and Border Patrol, Protection. It has been one team, one mission to get 100% operational control of the southern border. You want to talk about America first, peace through strength and common sense? It all manifests in one basic phrase down there. Border security is national security. And we had the task of 100% control, and because of these men and women back here, we've achieved that. Nobody is crossing the southern border. And I want to give a big shout out to our Northern Command, General Guillot. From day one, Our department didn't look at the border this way before you. Joe Biden allowed an invasion of this country. Tens of millions of people, drugs, gangs, violence, and the military jumped to it on day one with our partners. But ultimately, it was incredible Americans. There's 13 up here with us today. They all represent about 2,000 people who've served at the border so far. So 25,000 Americans qualify for this Mexican National Defense Border medal that we're announcing today. And what's cool about this medal, it was actually first given out in 1918.
Wow.
So we're reviving an old medal that was given to men and women who defended the southern border. We found out about it. We used the exact same foundry with the exact same imagery, same color, same medal, same everything. So our men and women will be wearing that very same medal as Americans 100 years before who were asked to defend the sovereignty of our country. President Trump was elected to do that. You have done that, Mr. President. We're proud of this mission. We're proud to defend the American people. And pinning these medals on is an example of how important it is to us. So thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate it.
This is Raisin Kane coming up.
President, Mr. Secretary, I want to echo your thanks and gratitude for the joint force. I also want to highlight General Gio, General Nauman, and Command Sergeant Major Johnson, but also leaders at every level that came together, not just in our joint force, but in the interagency. And I want to specifically highlight our Border Patrol teammates and our Office of Air and Marine teammates who, when I went down to the southern border and visited, were right there next to the joint force. I also want to thank not just these 13 individuals, but the joint force that was also down there and your families who poured in to make this deployment possible on the southern border. And of course, this time of the year, I'm always thinking about our currently deployed forces who are out there around the world doing our nation's business, and of course our fallen and their families who show us what courage and tenacity really are as they move forward after the loss of a service member. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Oh, Tom Homan.
You know, it's always an honor for me to be in the Oval Office with the greatest president of my lifetime. Yes, I said it, and I meant it.
That's right.
You know, I just got home last night. I toured the border in California, Arizona, and Texas. I did it in four-wheel drive. I did it on the river. I did it from the air. Hundreds upon hundreds of miles of border. I didn't see one illegal alien. Not a single one. I've done this since 1980.
Not one.
I worked for 6 different presidents. No one's done more than President Trump. What he has done is gave us the most secure border in the history of this nation. Hard to stop. I went to hundreds of miles of border and didn't see one illegal alien. Incredible, considering the Biden administration, we had 10, 12,000 a day, most released in the United States. I'm proud to be with these patriots behind me. I'm already proud to be in the Oval Office of the President, but being with these heroes, I met some of these soldiers down on the border. And actually, a shout out to Fort Drum, New York. We got some 10th Mountain Division here, so Lee Stefanik, Claudia Tennant, we all love Fort Drum and the 10th Mountain. So look, this is a game changer. I want to make something perfectly clear, because we get attacked all the time being inhumane. The Biden administration is much more humane. It's a bunch of crap. Because there's been studies done that 31%
look at Trump's face.
of
He's so
women
proud of
in
him.
that journey
Look at
through
him.
the cartels get sexually assaulted. They get raped. And not just the women, children too. I've done numerous investigations in that. Sex trafficking was at historic highs with that open border. Fentanyl, historic highs that killed 250,000 Americans. No Inspector terrorists that came across the border. Record, historic. What happened under the Biden administration was the most inhumane thing I've seen in my lifetime. Now that the border is 96% decline, 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped? How
That's
many
right.
children aren't dying making that journey? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this country every day? How many known suspected terrorists aren't just walking across that border? President Trump and this administration is saving thousands of lives every month.
That's right.
Hard stop. That's just a stone cold fact. I'm just proud to be a part of this. I work with Steve Miller every day. Steve Miller is one of the most brilliant people I've met in my entire life. President Trump brought together one hell of a team here, and the success proves. We all working together, one team, one fight. We're not done yet. We're going to keep going, and I guarantee you we're going to continue saving thousands and thousands of lives. Secure border means strong national security. Secure border saves lives. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. That was pretty badass, I gotta say.
Okay, let's do the medals and I'll be signing.
If you're watching with the green wall, if you go to my main stream, you can see and hear all the audio and video. The direct link is in the description of the video. Wow. Not one, he didn't see one illegal. I can't wait for the questions from the press. Will the first one be about the Rob Reiner post? What do you think? Who would you want to pin the medal on you? General Kane or Pete Hegseth? I think I like to have Pete Hegseth. Oh, President Trump's getting ready. He's going to sign it. Fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. He's ready to sign it. See, this is what presidents are supposed to do. Defend our country, defend our borders, defend our people.
Good job. Good job, fellas.
It just signed it. Fentanyl is now a weapon of mass destruction.
No auto pen. None, ever. We don't like auto pens, right?
That's right.
We don't like auto pens. How about gathering around me and we'll hold this up. Congratulations, that's an amazing job. Come on around, come on around. Let's take a good picture.
Now see how Pete Hegseth got out of the way for the service people?
Fantastic job, you guys, fantastic.
Isn't that pretty cool? No
Thank
ego.
you very much, great job.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Great job, what you've done is unprecedented.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, that's right.
How about holding that up? You guys hold it up. Nice. Hold it up high. You deserve it more than me.
It's amazing.
So I'm going to give you another medal, though.
Ooh,
That-
what's this?
Maybe more beautiful. I'm not sure it means as much, but it's really good. Okay? This is gunmetal. This is the one the military loves. So we're going to start. Okay? Thank you, dear. Here you go.
Ooh,
It's pretty nice. Want to compare it? Let me see. Compare it. Let me see how that looks. I don't know. That looks pretty good.
Thank you, Mr.
But that means something very special.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. President.
oh, Major General.
What you can do, tie it around your neck. Get a nice ribbon.
Get a
I
nice
think you'll
ribbon.
like it. It's special. We don't give them to many people.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
I don't see any transgendered soldiers or Marines, do you?
That's the man's being happy. That's 4 sides up big. That means a lot up there. Hey, General, come on over here, even though you have one. I gave him one. No? This general right here, General Raisin Cage. He's a great general. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's an honor. This is a fantastic moment. I haven't done this before. And the job they've done on the border is unthinkable. What they left us with, that they would have open borders with millions of people, 25 million people, probably more than that, pouring into our border, totally unchecked and unvetted. Now we have the opposite. And we want people in our country, but they have to come in legally.
That's right. Like
And they know
Melania
that.
did legally.
And they know they're not getting through, so now they don't even try. So all of the death that Tom Holman talked about, the rape and the death and all the problem doesn't really happen because the caravans, a name I think I came up with, maybe not, but the caravans are very small. In fact, for the most part, they don't even exist anymore because they know they're not going to get through. In a little while, you'll be seeing, I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally, they put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say. And the beautiful words that I said, right? The beautiful words. Talking about patriotism and all of the good things that I said, they didn't say that, but they put terrible words. They actually have me speaking with words that I never said, and they got caught because I believe somebody at BBC said, this is so bad, it has to be reported. That's called fake news.
Yep.
So we'll be filing that suit probably this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I want to thank all of you for being here. If you have any questions, I guess you could ask, but this is really a day of celebration for these people.
Oh, here goes.
The job they've done is really unprecedented.
You think the first one's going to be a Rob Reiner question?
go ahead.
What do you think?
On Brown University, Mr. President.
Oh, Brown University.
Do you know what the motive of the shooter was? Was it a targeted attack? Sure.
That's moving along now, and we don't, and we're going to see what happens. Hopefully, they're going to capture this animal. Hopefully, they're going to capture it.
Has Kash Patel told you why it's been so difficult for the FBI to identify who the shooter is?
Well, it's always difficult. So far, we've done a very good job of doing it with Charlie, with, the various times this has happened. They've done it in pretty much record time. But you'd really have to ask the school a little bit more about that because, this was a school problem. They had their own guards, they had their own police, they had their own everything. But you'd have to ask that question really to the school, not to the FBI. We came in after the fact, and the FBI will do a good job, but they came in after the fact.
Do you know if it was targeted, Mr. President?
No, they don't know that yet, no.
Sir, on the issue of drugs, is it accurate that you are considering an executive order to reclassify marijuana under the control?
We are considering that, yeah.
Oh,
Are you planning?
Because
be great.
a lot of people want to see it, the reclassification, because it leads to tremendous amounts of research that can't be done unless you reclassify. So we are looking at that very strongly.
Mr. President?
Mr. President,
Katie?
is it true that the reports that you rebuked the Israeli Prime Minister,
Please.
are the reports that you rebuked the Israeli Prime Minister for the hit on the Hamas general true? And is Israel undermining your efforts to be a peacemaker?
No, Israel and I have gotten along very well. My relationship with Bibi Netanyahu has been obviously a very good one. Look, we took out Iran. We wiped out, with that plane right there, we wiped out the B-2 bomber. We wiped out the Iran nuclear threat. And because of that, we were able to make peace in the Middle East. No, we've had a very good relationship with Israel. We actually have a very good relationship with just about everybody in the Middle East.
But was that a violation of the ceasefire, the strike on the Hamas general?
We're going to have to see. We're looking into that. Yeah, we'll look into it.
Mr. President, on the Syria ambush of
Yeah.
U.S. forces, do you still have confidence in the Syrian president?
I do. I mean, this had nothing to do with him. This is a part of Syria that they really don't have much control over. And it was a surprise. He feels very badly about it. He's working on it. He's a strong man. And no, this had nothing to do with the Syrian government. This had to do with ISIS.
What will the U.S. response be?
As a response, they'll be hit hard. Yeah.
First of all, thanks for honoring these
Thank you.
heroes. The communists have lost Chile. The pro-Trump candidate, José Antonio Caz, won the elections. Do you think this right-wing wave in the Spanish world is due to your influence?
Well, we
Absolutely.
just had a good one in Honduras, as you know. Had a great election there. I endorsed somebody that was not leading, and he won the election. And we had a good one just a couple of hours ago, I found out, in Chile. The person I endorsed, who was not leading, ended up winning quite easily. So I look forward to paying my respects to him. I hear he's a very good person. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. This year you fired Democrats from a number of federal agencies, And now going into 2026, there are some key regulators like the SEC, the CFTC that are going to have 0 Democrats. Do you plan to appoint Democrats to fill those empty spots, or do you think that federal agencies shouldn't have Democrat commissioners?
Well, do you think they would be appointing Republicans if it were up to them? So, we'll look at it. Look, we want to be fair, but typically they're not appointing Republicans. So you're asking me the question whether or not I'd appoint Democrats. But there are certain areas that we do look at, and there are certain areas that we do share power. And I'm open to that. Please.
Mr. President, a number of Republicans have denounced your statement on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. It was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. So he became like a deranged person, Trump Derangement Syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country, yeah.
Blue slips, Mr. President. Leader Thune doesn't seem like he wants to get rid of blue slips. Will there be consequences for the Senate if they
Well, I think they should get rid of blue slips because as a Republican president, I am unable to put anybody in office having to do with U.S. attorneys or having to do with judges. In other words, if you have one, not two, you don't need two, just one. If you have one Democrat senator, where we have a lot of them, you have one Democrat senator in a state, it is not possible to appoint, because of blue slips, a judge. It's not possible to appoint a U.S. attorney. You see that happening. And I think it's a disgrace. I think blue slips are a disgrace. They've long since, they should not be relevant anymore. This is a different world than it was 15, 20 years ago. That was a gentleman and gentlewoman world. This is a little bit different, unfortunately. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, what do you want to see Congress do this week as it relates to health care and the expiring ACA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd like to see the people get the money. I'd like to see all of the money that's going to the Democrat insurance companies. The insurance companies are making a fortune. They're up 1,700% and more. And they're taking in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars. And Obamacare gives you terrible health care. Just so you understand, Obamacare was set up, and I said it right from the beginning, for the benefit of the health insurance insurance companies, of the insurance companies. They're making billions and billions of dollars. Their stock is through the roof. I don't want to give them anything. I want all money going to the people, and let the people buy their own health care. It'll be unbelievable. They'll do a great job. They'll get much better health care at a much lower cost.
Would you like Republicans next year to just use reconciliation to do with health care exactly what you laid out, and they wouldn't have to worry about Democratic votes?
Well, that or knock out the filibuster. If you knocked out the filibuster, it would all go away.
That's
but
right.
We have a few people that wouldn't do that. It's crazy. Look, we should knock out the filibuster. And if you did that, we'd get voter ID. You'd have no mail-in voting, all things that make our elections dishonest. And you'd get a lot of other things having not even to do with voting. But Republicans should knock out the filibuster, and we should approve a lot of things. You wouldn't have January 30th looming because, you have the 30th of January looming. You know that, right? And if we knocked out the filibuster, it would be just a simple approval. But you have some Republicans that they're unable to explain why. If you ask them why, they're unable to explain it. They cannot win the debate. But they should knock out the filibuster. And
That's
frankly,
right.
they should get rid of the blue slips too, yeah.
Mr. President, the Democrats won Miami, where you won the election 1 year ago. Do you think it's because of the Hispanic media like Telemundo that are publishing fake news about the ICE operations?
Oh, who
How
this
do you
guy
plan
is.
to win back those votes for midterms?
Yeah, well, I won that whole election. And, it's interesting. When I'm not running, we don't do as well. And I'm going to try and get that changed for the midterms. But we did have a big win in Tennessee, as you know. Matt Van Epps had a big win in Tennessee against a very strong candidate, attractive candidate, who a lot of people thought would do very well. And Matt won by a lot. And I won Tennessee by a real lot. You know, we had a great election. We won every single swing state. We won the popular vote. We won everything. And there's a thing that they have now, districts, which is a big deal. I think in a way it's the most important stat from the standpoint of, you know, looking at numbers accurately. So out of thousands of districts, I won 2,750 versus 525.
Wow.
Think of that.
That's amazing.
2,750 versus 525. It was great. That's why the map, when you see a map of the election, it's all red other than
The
two
left-
little
the
narrow
right coast.
lines on the other side, please.
Sir, Jimmy Lai was convicted today in Hong Kong. Do you have any
Did not did not lose
I
Miami.
feel so badly. I spoke to
I'll share that in a
President Xi
bit.
about it, and I asked to consider his release. He's not well. He's an older man, and he's not well. So I did put that request out. We'll see what happens. Okay? Yeah, please, Katie.
Question about Ukraine. Now that the meetings in Berlin have wrapped up with Zelensky, is there a timetable for going to Moscow? Is a delegation going?
Well, I think that the delegation is largely there right now, actually. They're in Europe, and they met with those people that I called out before, the various countries, plus some others. They want to see it end, Katie. They want to see it end. They all. I want to see it end. They want to see it end. I actually think that President Putin wants to see it end. You know, I've had good talks. We've had good talks with Russia, and I think they'd like to get back to a more normal way of life.
Mr. President, follow up there. An Article 5 like deal seems to be emerging without NATO membership for Ukraine. If such a security guarantee is offered, what incentive is there for Ukraine to give up any sort of territory?
Well, look, you have, they've already lost the territory, you know, to be honest. I mean, the territory is lost. But in terms of security guarantee, we're working with Europe on it. Europe would be a big part of that. And we're working on the security guarantee so the war doesn't start up again. We don't want to have a war start up again. You know, as I said, with Thailand and Cambodia, two people I get along with great, and I dealt with them, and I called them, and I said, look, fellas, you got to relax. You got to take it easy. They lost. You know, they started the war again, and I got it ended. And things like that are going to happen, war. There's nothing pretty about war, nothing good, and there's nothing you can do to predict what's going to happen. But I think we've made a lot of progress with respect to Russia and Ukraine. I hope. You know, last month, it was close to 27,000 soldiers were killed, mostly soldiers, but 27,000 people, but mostly soldiers were killed last month in Russia versus Ukraine.
Is there a time limit on security guarantees?
Well, there's no time limit. The time limit is whenever we get it done. I mean, we're going to try to get it done.
Jasmine, thanks for the super
making
chat.
progress.
Thank you.
It's more difficult than anybody could have thought. I would have said that half of the wars that I got settled, some were going for over 30 years, that half of them should have been more difficult, and they actually haven't been. There's a lot of dislike between the two leaders, you know that, and so it probably makes it a little bit tough.
Spoken directly to Putin? Have you recently spoken directly to Putin?
Yeah, I have.
On Syria, Mr. President, on the U.S. troops killed in Syria over the weekend, why do we have troops in Syria?
Because we're trying to make sure that there's going to be and remain peace in the Middle East, and Syria is a big part of it. The new leader is a strong person, and that's what you need. This is a rough part of the world, and it's been amazing what's taken place in Syria. We got rid of Assad, we got rid of other people that were really bad people, and that were in the way of peace in the Middle East. You know, we have legitimate peace in the Middle East, first time in 3,000 years. And we have 59 countries backing it. And we'll see what happens with Hamas. We'll see what happens with Hezbollah. But regardless, I mean, we have countries that want to go in and clean that out if we want them to do it. But they said, in the case of Hamas, they said that they're going to disarm, and we're going to find out whether or not that's true. Hezbollah in Lebanon has been a problem. We'll see what happens there. But there is legitimate large-scale peace in the Middle East. And if there weren't, we wouldn't have been able to make all of those deals that we've made with the various countries. They would have never been able to do that if For instance, if we didn't, with that B-2 bomber right there on the desk, if we didn't, of which we just ordered a lot more of the newer version, totally stealth. They could not see it. They knew it was coming. They had no idea where it was. It was pretty amazing, actually. Every bomb hit its mark perfectly, despite CNN trying to say differently. They didn't know. They just, hoped. They hoped that we didn't, but turned out that they did. Atomic Energy Commission confirmed it. So did Iran confirm it. They got knocked to hell. But if we didn't knock out their nuclear capability, we would have never had peace in the Middle East, because you would have had a dark cloud hanging over Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and all the other countries, and they would have never, ever been able to sign an agreement. Yeah, please.
How soon do you expect that international stabilization force to be up and running in Gaza?
I think that it's, in a form, it's already running. In a very strong form, it's already. But it'll get stronger and stronger, and more countries are coming into it. They're already in, but they'll send any number of troops that I ask them to send. They want to see peace. We have more than 59 countries. We have many countries that aren't even in the Middle East, but they're fairly close to the Middle East. They want to be involved. So it's been pretty amazing.
Mr. President, this week a man named Keone Rodriguez is going to federal prison for creating crypto privacy software. The case was started under the Biden administration, but your DOJ kept it going and secured the conviction. A lot of people in crypto are saying that this man should be pardoned. Are you familiar with the case at all, or would you be interested
I've
in
heard
looking
about
at
it. I'll look at it. Why, you think he should be pardoned?
Sounds
like it. Sounds like, based on your question.
Many people in the
Rodriguez, we'll look at that, Pam. Okay, let's take a look at it. You'll have to tell me. I don't know anything about it, but we'll take a look.
On Friday,
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, market analysts are calling for a Santa rally. Typically, it's 5 trading days going into Christmas. In the first 2 trading days in January, that's a sign of market optimism. Do you anticipate, along with the...
That's Brian Glenn, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend.
...continuing into the first quarter of next
Well, we've
year?
had the greatest stock market in history, Brian. We have a stock market that's gone up 52 times to new highs during a 10-month period, my 10
Wow,
months.
52 times.
First
new
10
high.
months.
Wow.
We set a record. 52 days, we had the highest stock market in history, including a day ago. And I didn't look today. Maybe it's up today, I don't know. But we had 52 altogether, and there's never been anything like it. And the reason are the tariffs have brought vast amounts of wealth into our country. That countries that have taken our car companies, those car companies are all coming back. The AI is coming at levels that nobody's ever seen before. That's going to be a massive industry. Without the tariffs, we wouldn't have that. Chips are coming in, chip companies are coming in from Taiwan and other places, but mostly from Taiwan, which has almost 100% of the market. And we're now making chips, and we're not paying anything. It's not the CHIPS Act where they give billions of dollars to companies and then they just take the money and they run. That was under Biden. The fact that I set tariffs up, and that if they don't make their chips here, they have to pay a big tariff. In order to send them into the U.S., they have to be here. You know, tariffs really work, in my opinion, almost only in the United States. They've been used against us successfully because we had presidents that had no clue. But tariffs really work. We have taken in hundreds of billions of dollars with tariffs, and more importantly, we've taken in countries and companies where, and even countries have sent their car-making people into the United States in order to avoid paying tariffs. And they'll build a plant and they'll hire our people to make the cars. But we now have, as you know, Toyota just approved $10 billion in manufacturing plants in the United States using our people. Without tariffs, none of that would have happened. Tariffs have given us great national security. There's nothing like what's happened in the last 10 months. Tariffs have given us tremendous national security and tremendous wealth. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Wow, that was a good one.
Thank you, Mr. President.
This is my favorite part. I love watching them wrangle them out. Let's see if we get to see that. Oh, no, they cut away. I love it when you get to watch them force them out of there. You know, that's one of my favorite parts. Well, that was a really amazing press conference. By the way, those of you that are watching with the green wall behind me, to see and hear all the audio and video I share, you got to go to my main stream. That was really an amazing press conference. The press are not all that interested in this Rob Reiner post, and which I was a little surprised at, because I thought they were going to use that to really go after him and try to get, but there was one question about the Rob Reiner post on True Social, and every other question, I don't know if you noticed this, every other question was an appropriate question. Every single one. And, you know, one of the things, did any of you guys see me on Newsmax over the weekend on Wendy Bell? When I was on Wendy Bell's show on Newsmax over the weekend, one of the things I told Wendy Bell was, you know, she had asked me about Trump with the Miss Piggy thing. And I had told her, I said, you know, what President Trump is doing is the job that their editors used to do, right? You know, if you worked at a news division, whether it was print or broadcast media, you would have a news director or an editor who was your supervisor, who would keep you on task to do your job properly. And these people have been wild, out of control for many years without any supervision. And what Trump is doing is acting like an editor. You ever see All the President's Men? The movie, All the President's Men, right? About Woodward and Bernstein, that whole lie. It was a big CIA op. But anyway, Jason Robards plays their editor, Bradley, at the Washington Post. And he was demanding... you know, we need sources. We need people that will go on the record to confirm this. You got to have two independent sources. It's throughout the whole movie, and he's very frustrated that they don't have sources that'll go on the record because they're, you know, it was a deep state op. And there's just been no practices and standards with the media for years. And President Trump, for the last over 10 years, labeling them fake news and everything, has been doing that. And this press conference is maybe the first press conference I've seen where every single member of the press behaved and asked appropriate questions, even the ones that probably don't like him that much. Do you guys agree with that? I thought that was interesting. I'll give you an example. This thing that they pulled the other day, right? The Democrats released this absurd photo, and the media runs with it, saying that President Trump took a picture with all these underage girls on Epstein Island with and then we find out right away that no, not only were they not underage, they were Hawaiian Tropic models who were at a photo shoot at Mar-a-Lago for a Hawaiian Tropic suntan lotion ad, and he went out and took a picture with them, which anybody would do. There's nobody watching this. If a group of Hawaiian Tropic models came to your house, because that's his house, Mar-a-Lago, wouldn't you take a picture with them too? Absolutely. But the media and the Democrats, they put these boxes over their faces to create the illusion that something was wrong. The other thing about the press conference that maybe the biggest takeaway of all is that he's classified fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction now. That takes it to a whole new level. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good afternoon, Brian. This is Everett from Washington, Indiana.
All right, Everett from Indiana. What's on your mind?
Well, I guess Rob Reiner's untimely death.
Murder. I mean, it's crazy. Just
you
nuts.
Poor Nick. You know, he was raised by those people. You know.
Poor who?
I don't know the details yet, but
poor who?
I kind of think, you know, his son.
I wouldn't describe his son
Nick?
as a victim. I mean, he's a murderer, double murderer, murdered his parents.
Well, he was raised by them and was strung out addict. You know.
You know, it was reported today that the day before they were all at a party. Rob Reiner, his wife, and the son that murdered them were at a party at Conan O'Brien's house, and the son and mother got into a big fight, a shouting match at Conan O'Brien's party.
Yeah. I tell you what, these celebs, Madonna and like Johnny Depp and stuff.
Is Madonna still a celebrity? Is Madonna really a celebrity anymore? I don't know.
Not really, but Johnny Depp making references to John Wilkes Booth, and Trump, they're out of control. And that Mad Max Waters, she flat out tells people.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's true. Well, we don't need to tell them here. Yeah, you're right. The little double standard there. I was really surprised. I thought that the press was going to pile on President Trump about the about this post at True Social, and they didn't. Why do you think that is? Because he's right? Who knows? If you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe. If you're new, I always take live calls while I'm streaming here. The toll-free number is pinned in the live chat, 888-465-2631. You're on the air.
Afternoon, Brian. Thank you so much for showing that press conference and the award ceremony. I have a question for you. Has anyone, I personally have never seen either in print or in video, where Rob Reiner ended up making any sort of comment, positive comment, specifically in regards to how President Trump is so defiant when it comes to drugs.
Yeah, and you would think that, Rob Reiner's son has been a lifelong addict who, what was he, in rehab, I think I read today, 17 times? That's like more than Hunter and his sister combined probably. I mean, it's a lot. And he's been homeless a bunch of times. And, in different parts of the country, which shows you that Rob Reiner cut him off a bunch of times, right? To try to get, and so he's dealt with drug use in his own family it ended up taking his life, right? And you would think that someone like Rob Reiner would cross party lines and be very grateful and supportive of President Trump for shutting down the cartels that are, the cartels are responsible for Rob Reiner and his wife's murder, really, right?
The whole thing is just incredibly, it's sad how the events that ended up leading to Rob Reiner, but the fact of the matter is that Trump has and has always been, even in his first term, very aggressive in regards to substance abuse issues.
Well, a lot of that is, did I lose you? Okay, hold on a second here. I got all these lines going on. I'm getting confused on who's who. Okay, all right, hold on. Are you back with me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, a lot of that is, sorry, I was answering the other lines. A lot of that is his brother who, he was addicted to alcohol and that killed him, right?
Yeah, I know. My point is this: is that drugs do not identify red and blue, rich or poor.
That's right.
They don't have that identification, and the fact is that substance abuse has directly impacted his family, and the inability of Mr. Reiner to actually identify the positive aspects that Donald Trump has made, and will continue to make, to get this illicit drugs that the previous administration had allowed to flourish throughout our country. That is sad.
You're not only is it sad. I mean, think about it. You make a good point. Think about all the good Rob Reiner could have done if he would have joined forces to end the drugs in this country with President Trump and came out in favor of it. I got a question for you. We haven't heard any motives, but Rob Reiner did say good things about Charlie Kirk after he was assassinated, right? Do you think that might have triggered the son? And I read today, is this true that Rob Reiner's wife took the photograph of President Trump that's on the cover of Art of the Deal? I read that on Twitter today.
I saw that. I saw that as well. I don't, there was some humanity in regards to Mr. Reiner, at least being able to identify that. Like I said, the thing for me that really gets me is the fact that, when you have this syndrome, such as TDS is, it blinds you.
Yes.
And the fact that he could not actually step up to the plate and find some common ground, which he did with the Charlie Kirk thing. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was able to actually make a statement in regards to the unfortunate demise and violent execution of Charlie.
He made a good point.
But he couldn't step up to the plate and do that directly with President Trump, and that, in my opinion, is the unfortunate, because I think it would have been as you said, it would have been fantastic, and I think it would have been a growing point for everyone in concern. But the fact that he could not bring himself to actually see that is
the thing with Rob Reiner. Say a couple things, okay? And I was talking about this today. There's never been a time in my coherent life that I didn't have Rob Reiner in my life, because when I was a little kid in the 70s. All in the Family was the #1 show on television. We didn't have any streaming. Can you believe it, guys? No internet, no cable. We just had 3 channels. So, I mean, the impact that show had in the celebrity of Rob Reiner is bigger than people realize if you're my age.
Well, the Reiner family, because Carl Reiner.
Yeah, his dad was Carl Reiner from the Dick Van Dyke Show and all that stuff, and very famous.
He was behind some of the most popular series that you have ever heard of. But yeah, I mean, but in regards to the fact that
but just let me finish about it though, because I showed this at the beginning before the press conference. But President Trump's Trump Talk in the True Social post, Rob Reiner was using his celebrity, working with deep state people like Clapper, as part of the team to bring down President Trump during the lawfare era, going back to his first term. And these are the same people that went on to shoot him in Butler, too. So, Rob Reiner was working against President Trump in some evil ways, and he's got I understand him being pissed off.
It like I said, if you have TDS, it clouds you, and it's unfortunate. I mean, it can cloud your judgment in so many different avenues and ways. And it's so unfortunate that an aspect of what President Trump has been actively, aggressively fighting ended up, having an impact on his life directly.
Yeah, I knew he was a liberal jerk, Rob Reiner. But like I said, when Rob Reiner, I don't pay attention to celebrities. And if you hear the audio sound bites, I mean, news people are celebrities. I play clips of news people, but I don't play clips of actors too much, Hollywood people, because they're uneducated people. They don't understand anything that they're talking about, and, I know Rob Reiner's a director, so he's got a little more sense, and he's directed some great movies like A Few Good Men and stuff, and, Misery. I haven't seen Misery in years. I like to see that again. But I'm just not interested in what celebrities say. But I did not realize that he was working with these deep state people. Some of the people that signed off on the laptop being Russian disinformation. He was working with that crew. So he was part of the conspiracy against Trump of these last 10 years, with some of the worst people involved in it. I'd be pissed off too. I don't want to, I don't like to talk bad about there was someone, I'm not going to say who this is, but there's someone that Steve and I knew that passed away. And Steve wanted to go to the funeral and wanted me to go. And I didn't like the person. And I said, I'm not going. And he said, why? And I said, because I couldn't stand them. And it would, it would be disrespectful to their family. I just couldn't. Just because someone has died doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden like them. And what they've done to President Trump and his family, breaking into his house, shooting him, the same people that did all this are the people he was friends with and working with. So I understand him being pissed off. I really do.
The things that he has said over his lifetime, Mr. Reiner, he's presented himself as a direct adversary to the entire Trump administration and agenda. And as I've said numerous times, his TDS blinded him on one of the most important aspects that has directly impacted on his life.
And I'll tell you something. I don't want to take anything away from his talent. I mean, but most of his movies are But he's a Nepo baby. His father, Carl Reiner, was one of the most influential people in television history because he had some of his father was behind some of the first hit television shows on television. So
is it Happy Days and
yeah, all those
yeah.
So he, not to take anything away, he was good on All in the Family, okay? And I but he got where he was on his dad's coattails and through his entire life. So he never really worked or earned for anything. And I think a lot of times people like that, they hate people that work their way up. You know, like Steven Spielberg was a director who had no connections and made his way off his talents, or George Lucas. Rob Reiner was just handed things because his dad, Carl, a lot of people don't remember Carl Reiner that are millennials and younger. I don't know who you could compare Carl Reiner today. His influence in television was like big, like Aaron Spelling was in the 80s and 90s, right? You know, I mean, big. Big. All right.
Yeah, it is. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Make some good points. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, a long-time listener, first-time caller, Tim from Indiana.
Yeah, Tim. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm just really sad to see what's happened with Rob and his wife. I mean, it's really, you know, he was a hardcore liberal, but, you know, you still don't want to see that kind of thing happen. Do you think it might have been some of the drugs that his son was on in rehab that might have affected his brain?
I don't know. People are talking about that. I've seen some articles about drugs he was on. I don't know. You know, we don't know the motive, and maybe we'll never know exactly what happened. But typically, when, you know, he cut their throats. I mean, that's crazy. So there was like a physical altercation, and we don't even know which one was first. So did he fight with the dad and then do it, and then he did it a second time? To me, it sounds like he was high out of his mind on some hardcore drugs, psychedelic hallucinogens or something. I mean, you know, to do that, to lose that kind of control. And
well, they were just at that party the other night when they got
Conan
in a big
O'Brien's
fight,
house.
him and his mom.
At Conan O'Brien's house.
What was the fight about?
We don't know.
Does anybody know what the fight was about?
We know nothing. All we know is it was at Conan O'Brien's house. But usually, now we don't know, but usually when people like these act out, it's because they want money and they're not getting it. Right? They get cut off from, and obviously Rob Reiner had cut him off many times over the years because he had been homeless all over the country. I would guess it was over money. But most murders are over money or sex. So we know sex wasn't involved here, money.
Well, I heard that Rob didn't like his lifestyle, you know, as far as trying to trans over and stuff. So that was a big rift the whole time of their life.
He was transitioning? I'd not heard that.
Oh, I thought he was. Okay, I might be wrong, but I thought somebody told me he might have been, his son was transitioning.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know about that. All right, appreciate the call. If you're on hold, I'll tell you another thing. There was another celebrity death that I just saw, Anthony Geary, who played Luke Spencer on General Hospital. You know, as you get older, the people you grew up with are dying. And, you know, some of these people, like Rob Reiner, people forget what a big star he was. Anthony Geary, who died, that Luke and Laura thing was so big and so huge. And everybody in America watched Luke and Laura. Everybody. I mean, it was, you know, now, you know, because now there's so many options, right? With not just television and cable, but with streaming. And it used to be like Luke and Laura with Anthony Geary and Jeannie Francis, who, by the way, Jeannie Francis, Laura, is married to Jonathan Frakes, who plays Riker on Star Trek Next Generation. Luke and Laura, everybody watched it. All in the Family, everybody watched it, right? There were these things. The last episode of MASH, everybody watched it. But now, because there's so many options, you don't have that experience. And as crazy as this sounds, my daughter brought this up to me once, and my daughter was so right about this. There's no unity in the country for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is we're divided in our entertainment, which we never used to be, right? We used to always be together with these experiences that we had in media, and we've lost that. We're all doing our own little thing. You know, you might be binging Stranger Things, or I might be, binging, All in the Family. Maybe I'll watch a couple episodes of that. But, the fact that there's so many options out there and people are so split on where they're at, you just don't have the unity. And the celebrity that Anthony Geary and Rob Reiner had is bigger than any A-list celebrity today, because more people were watching Luke and Laura or All in the Family or Misery or A Few Good Men. Those were experiences, the Rob Reiner movies, or than watch any of these people today, even the biggest one. It's crazy. Yeah. Well, when that Luke and Laura thing was going on, I remember I don't remember the exact year-ish, but I was young then. I was about 10. And I still lived in Ohio, and I'd come to Florida on vacation, and I had a cousin, and she was really into that, and she introduced me, and I spent the whole summer with my cousin who was babysitting me during the summer. I'd come to Florida to visit my dad and grandparents before I moved here, and she was into the Luke, and she got me into it, and I watched that whole summer with Luke and Laura and the Cassidines and Scorpio and all that stuff, but it is sad that we don't have that unity that we used to have around entertainment. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Sean from Massachusetts.
Hey, Sean, what's up?
Well, listening to all this stuff about the Reiner and everything going on, and actually made some callers made some really good points, and your daughter made some good points about the entertainment too. I mean, because when you look at entertainment is downstream from politics is downstream from culture in so many ways. And back in those days, there was more unity in how everybody watched everything. And I used to hear stories, and I was a little young, but back in the 70s, shows would go on all year, and you'd take it all year to get through it instead of having division of episodes. And people would get into it, and it was just everybody was more on the same page. But nowadays, with this, the woke ideology now. Drawing a curve between everybody, and then you have people that are not doing non-woke, and then you have people that are doing the right things. The stuff that we all, the quality entertainment that we come to love, is opposed. Big difference.
Well, it used to be, the power. That's why the movies are dead, right? Because there's just not everybody's so divided. It used to be like, you talk about, people don't understand how famous Rob Reiner or Anthony Geary for General Hospital. It used to be when there were just 3 channels, you didn't have a lot of options, right? You really didn't. You really didn't. So that's what everybody watched.
Yeah, you're right. And it was just a time, a mindset that was completely different, regardless of where everyone stood. There was more unity in that way, and that is so true. There was much more of a tribal feeling. Everybody was together, and it was a great thing. Now, Donald Trump, when he was asked questions today, they didn't dare ask him about anything going on. And I think maybe one of the reasons is because the situation is itself, as it was with Rob Reiner. I mean, with his son for what he did, and because it was so embarrassing for what happened. It was tragic, but I mean, it's going to reflect, and it was going to draw attention to this because, of course, Rob Reiner was working with the deep state. And he was one of their darlings, in Hollywood, even though he was. I mean,
he's working with Clapper and others. I mean, that's as bad as it gets. They were one of the leaders of the illegal lawfare against President Trump is Clapper, and Rob Reiner was working right there with him.
Right there, and I just think maybe that's why they didn't really get in. They didn't get into a lot of things there at this. They weren't asking questions about Australia or anything. There's a lot because it's shattered the narrative that they were trying to say they never had. They were trying to create this facade and this lie about this doesn't do this and
Well, I've been a little surprised at the media. I don't. There's a manhunt going on with the Brown University shooting, and the media not only are they barely covering it. You would think they would be there in Providence going around walking the path where they got him on video. I think the media coverage of the Brown University is really strange.
Well, look what the first suspect looked like. Just look at who he looked like.
I knew it wasn't that guy.
He's Caucasian.
I knew it wasn't that guy.
But you look at him, right? And they were sure they wouldn't make a big fiasco if it was him. Think about it. And now we're hearing Lorna Loomis uncovered some possibilities here, and now we're hearing that when what was said out loud and everything. Of course, they don't want to talk about this. Because this is just shattering their incredible narrative, and they don't want us to they don't want the common people to
true.
think about this
That's
and
true.
to look into it themselves.
That's true.
It's
All right, well, listen,
unbelievable.
I got to run, but I appreciate the call. Take care. You know, if you just joined the stream, if you missed the beginning of the stream, go back and watch the beginning. I got a call from Jose from Los Angeles. You will not want to miss. Okay, you will not want to miss that call. Go back at the beginning of the stream when and check that out. If you're new, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe and like the video. And anytime I'm live streaming in one of the studios I'm in, I always take live calls just like this, unscreened, unvetted, live right here on the air. Okay? What's that? Oh, Oh, my wife was telling me to do so. Hold on a second. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up. Okay. I was got to show you. I forgot to do this, so I'll have to pull it up to show you guys. Hold on. Let me see here. Okay. I was just about to sign off, and my wife reminded me. Hold on a second. There is a new channel that my wife and I have here on YouTube. And if you haven't already, I did post this in my community section on my YouTube channel. It's called Primary Source, and you can find it by searching Primary Source USA. Primary Source USA right here on YouTube. And what we're doing is we're streaming all the Trump speeches and events in real time right there. And you can go back. We just started this channel over the weekend, Primary Source USA on YouTube. There is a link in the community section on my YouTube channel, but it's Primary Source USA on YouTube. And this is it. And you can catch that, and then you can catch all the Trump speeches and everything. This is a new channel we just started up, and we already have 8,500 subs. So we got 8,500 subscribers already, and we just have, 5 videos up, which is pretty darn good, I gotta say. So make sure you go and subscribe. Primary Source USA right here on YouTube, okay? And this is where we carry everything Trump. Like while I was on the air here, we were streaming the entire medal ceremony, the speech that the president gave on the Brown University event over the weekend, the Pennsylvania rally, and the signing of executive orders. It is Primary Source USA on YouTube. Primary Source USA on YouTube. I'm shocked. 8,500 subscribers already. Thanks so much, guys. Make sure you subscribe. All right, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next time. Take care.